What's up guys, welcome back to Elderwood Games. Thomas here, and this week I wanted to talk about my plans for June and kind of what hobbying I'm going to be doing this month, and some preparation for some events that are coming up and happening locally, and then also looking towards the future and what I'll be planning to do hopefully before 11th edition officially starts. This week, Games Workshop released the full rules for 11th edition. I'm sure a lot of you have already downloaded and read through them, trying to find some things that have been different or changed since the previous edition. I also did the same thing. I've flipped through it and marked a few things, and I plan to do a little bit more of a follow-up video to last week's video, probably next week, and talk through some of those changes that I found and also some other things that I found interesting. Really, I just wanted to devote a little bit more time to reading through it and making sure that I capture everything and make sure that I'm fully understanding everything that I'm reading, and that way I can provide you all with a better example of what 11th edition is going to be. So this week we're going to talk through sort of my hobby goals. Typically I do these at the end of the month prior, but we had a lot going on with the exhibition matches and that sort of thing, so I kind of ended up pushing and posting here. So last month's goal was hopefully to get done with my 2 war dogs, and that just didn't happen. I just found myself not able to commit a lot of my free time to hobbying, so I wasn't able to get that done, unfortunately. So most likely I'm not going to have my knights ready for the official launch of 11th edition, but I'm not too concerned with that, mainly because our shop is currently doing a 40k crusade, so it's not likely that I'll be getting any kind of free play games with something new like that in the meantime, so I'm not too worried about that. I'll work on the knights when I get to them, and then I'll be able to start playing them. For June, we have a couple other sort of events that are happening at my local store, and so I'm going to be setting up some things to be able to play in those. As I alluded to in an earlier video, mainly my trip to England video, I have started to get into the game of Blood Bowl, and it is a ton of fun. It's absolutely chaotic, and the games are relatively quick, a lot quicker than 40k at least, and you only have to paint a single sort of warband of about 10 to 12 dudes. So I'll be painting up my Bretonians from the core set, or the starter box rather, and playing those in a Blood Bowl league that we're going to be starting soon at the shop. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't decided fully on my team's colors quite yet, but I am excited just to paint up some sort of old school medieval fantasy kind of guys for a bit, get a little bit out of the sci-fi for a little while and kind of enjoy just a different kind of aspect of that. And another event that is coming up, or more a league rather, is a Spearhead league. So I have debated getting back into Age of Sigmar. I wanted something a bit different, so I decided to go with the Seraphon Spearhead. So I've got it mostly assembled now, and I'm working through painting it. And so my goal for June is to have both my Blood Bowl team fully painted and my Spearhead fully painted, and that way I can play fully painted stuff by the end of the month and be able to have that and have new armies and new Blood Bowl teams to play with, and just get a little bit of a change. I've been painting a lot of Tyranids, I've been playing some Tau and stuff, so just to get out of the sci-fi, out of the 40k, and into just something fresh and different. And then in July, it's going to be time to tackle the Tyranids backlog, because it has been growing quite steadily, and it's gotten a bit out of hand. But another thing hobby-wise that's kind of impacted me now is I have decided to pick up an airbrush. So I have done most of the base coats for the skin of my Seraphon. This is the Agrodon, I think is what it's called. I don't know. It's the big dinosaur that the this guy rides on. Let's see if it'll... Yeah, there we go. So just getting some base coats and kind of getting the hang of the airbrush, trying to figure that out. At least for base coating right now, it's definitely improving my workflow and getting the base coats down and allowing me to not have to spend as much time per model kind of getting just basic colors down. And then of course, it has its disadvantages as well. It's not overly accurate, so I will have to go in, clean up some stuff, do all the armor and that sort of thing like that. But one thing I plan to do with some of these gold pieces, like this throne here, this is the saddle for the guy on the Agrodon, is I'm planning on doing the marble effect. The thing that a lot of people have done where you sort of take baby cloth or clean wipes and stretch them out, and you airbrush the light color over them, and it imitates the like veining of marble effects. I plan to do that on that throne, but also on the Saurus Warrior shields as well. These little guys. And some of the other like stone bits I plan to do in that way. It just kind of sounded like it'd be a cool and unique kind of way to maybe add a little bit of difficulty or a little bit of like points of interest on these models, because ultimately I think they're going to be fairly easy to get the rest of everything done. Base coats are done. I have to do some touching up, especially on this guy. Most of the other ones, doing the belly first was the right call, but I think with how his model is, I'm gonna have to do his like belly coat again and get that back to a nice like tannish yellow. And then I'll go through and kind of, most likely everything will get a nice dry brush and then ultimately a wash. Debating doing oil washes for the first time, just because I do really like how deep it gets into everything, and the fact that you have a little bit more working time is nice as well. But we'll kind of see when I get to that stage if that's the direction I want to go, and like getting some oil paints and the thinner and all the stuff that I need to be able to do that. We'll just kind of see how I'm feeling when that time comes, or I'll just do like my typical acrylic washes with just some water, a little bit of medium, and maybe a little bit of dish soap to help break surface tension, so it basically acts very similar to an oil wash and that sort of thing. But yeah, really for June, it's a bit of a change of pace. So looking at Blood Bowl, Age of Sigmar, some more like medieval fantasy kind of aesthetic miniatures for this month, and mainly so I can be able to play with painted stuff in the leagues that are coming up, as our shop is kind of pivoting as we're moving into 11th edition. I did decide not to do the Crusade, and that was mainly because I learned how to play Blood Bowl. I'm also going to be learning how to play Spearhead and Age of Sigmar, and I was like, do I really want to be doing 40k homework in between all of that? Not really. And so I just was like, you know what, I'll just go ahead. We'll just pivot, focus on some different stuff, get some fresh paint and projects and stuff on the table, enjoy that for a little bit, and then I'll go back to it. And then, like I alluded to earlier, July, I think, is going to pretty much need to be me getting my Tyranids under control. I have a lot of stuff in backlog right now. I have 2 units that are on the desk right now because I have my Trigon with a little bit of my kit bashing done. He's going to be on a like custom base that I've made as well, where he's like kind of sprouting out of the ground. See if I can get him set up real quick. I'll have to hold on to him, but so yeah. Did some custom work on his head and that sort of thing, but I'll be interested in how he ends up. I definitely plan to use the airbrush a lot on those guys. Tyranids and Tau, those 2 armies in particular, their colors that I've used are some of the more difficult colors to paint on smoothly in single coats. So it'll be really nice to use the airbrush on at least the base coats. I don't think I'm going to do much like fancy stuff with the airbrush with any of them, at least not right now. There might be like character models or something that I decide to go a little bit extra on. But for right now, the plan is mostly to do just the base coating on them and getting most of that out of the way with the airbrush, and then getting through the rest of it. But yeah, Tyrannus backlog is looking pretty intense. I'll probably go into that a little bit more in detail on sort of my goals for July video in a couple weeks. But yeah, we'll see if I can get this Spearhead box done and the Blood Bowl team done this month. And I'll show you guys kind of how that goes along the way. And if there's any models or units that you particularly want to either watch me paint or see some more like step-by-step kind of stuff on, please do let me know. And yeah, that'll do it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.